Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ghost Protocol. Fardin here. If you like our video, please leave a like and comment. Subscribe to stay connected with us, and we will continue to publish videos. The Sounds NEF. This was back when I was 15, and over summer, my parents went on a yearly business getaway trip with my dad's work. A few years before this, we'd moved into an older house that had been in my dad's family for a long time. It was on a large wooded property, and up until then they had been renting it out. But the place started to have too many problems. So I guess my parents decided to move into it. That way they could save money on not having a mortgage or rent payment and could use the extra money toward fixing up the place. The obvious downside was we had to live there while things broke all the time. They made tons of renovations, but it was just so old and massive that you really couldn't change everything, and it still had that old, musty feel to it. Even the renovated parts felt off because you knew underneath it all, the place was still that same 150-year-old house. I honestly never really liked it, and neither did my parents, but we dealt with it. Back to what happened though. My parents were gone for 4 days, and being summer break, I didn't have anything to do. I'd wake up, make a bowl of cereal, and hop on the PlayStation all day, and repeat that pretty much every day, whether my parents were home or not. That's exactly how the first day went up until around 9 p.m. I don't remember if I was actually in the middle of playing something, but I know I was in my room with the TV screen on, either gaming or watching YouTube or just hanging around the room, when suddenly everything went dark. The basement was like another living room with a TV, Xbox 360, a couch, and a few small side rooms. For the first several hours, until around 10 p.m., we played Call of Duty on the Xbox and just had a good time hanging out. Pretty typical night for us. After that, Chase kind of randomly mentioned that he had some drinks upstairs that he'd bring down for us. He left the basement, and we could basically hear every footstep as he walked around above us. The mansion must have had thin walls or something. Me and Brian waited and talked for a few minutes, waiting for Chase to come back down, before we started to hear muffled voices above us. We both immediately stopped our conversation and looked at each other confused, then stared at the ceiling, listening to it. Someone else was in the house with us. I thought that we could pretty clearly hear Chase and this other person talking back and forth. Of course, both of us were under the impression that we had the house to ourselves. So, who the hell was he talking to? I got up and told Brian I was going to go check who it was, or at least try to listen to see if something weird was going on. I started walking up the steps and opened the basement door, which, come to think of it, kind of weird Chase had even closed it behind him. That is, if we were actually alone. But when I opened it, the door made a really loud creak that reverberated through the whole mansion. Instantly, both voices stopped. My stomach tightened for a second. A strange, unsettled feeling immediately hit me, almost like a fight or flight response. I then walked down the hallway a bit before Chase suddenly came around the corner and looked startled, like I'd scared him. "Who were you talking to? I thought we had the house to ourselves, like we were alone here." Chase shook his head and asked what I was talking about. He then raised up the drinks, showing he got them, and walked past me back down into the basement. Brian asked him the same question, but Chase again said that no one else was here. He genuinely looked like he thought we were crazy, and after a few minutes we eventually dropped the conversation, just assuming we were wrong somehow. I think in my head, I thought Chase's answer seemed genuine, and so I thought he was probably just talking to himself. Or maybe embarrassingly singing to himself, and we thought it was a different voice. I don't know, but I ended up forgetting about it. We stayed up for another few hours. It was clear all of us were tired by 1 a.m., So we got ready for bed. Chase and Brian slept on opposite sides of the couch, and I slept on the floor with a sleeping bag. We turned off all the lights, and I laid down. I don't remember anything else after getting in the sleeping bag, so I assumed I just fell asleep a few minutes later. When I woke up, the only light in the whole basement was the small digital clock on the TV stand with glowing red numbers that read 3:14. I felt weirdly awake though. I rolled over and looked at the couch, and all of a sudden my stomach tightened again. That same fight or flight response. Neither Chase or Brian was there. I immediately sat up and looked around. Obviously, both of them being gone was weird as hell, but it was also pretty freaky to know I was alone in the pitch-dark basement of some random old mansion. I quickly felt my way over to the lights, doing another quick look around and not seeing either of them. I even called out in a whisper, saying Brian and Chase over and over again. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but that aching gut feeling was really scaring me. I then looked up the staircase at the basement door. It was closed. Again, if they had left, why close the door behind them? But while I was at the bottom of the steps, I started to hear something. These soft, muffled thumps somewhere on one of the upper floors of the mansion. Someone walking down a hallway, then a door opening, and then they walked back down the hallway again. I stayed there and listened, and they must have gone back and forth 4 or 5 times. I was really starting to freak out. I hurried up and opened the door. All the lights were still off in all the rooms and hallways. I didn't even know where any of the light switches were, so I just felt my way down toward the front door. "Alex?" Chase said my name from the top of the staircase behind me. I swung around, completely jump-scared. "Bro, what are you doing? Are you leaving?" I asked him what he was doing and where the hell Brian was. He looked at me confused and asked what I meant by where Brian was. After a few back and forths, Chase said he went to sleep up in his room because he couldn't fall asleep on the couch. And that last he saw, Brian was still down there in the basement on the couch sleeping. We both went back down to the basement and looked. And like I said, he wasn't down there. Then we turned on all the lights and looked in every room, but he was not in the house. Also worth mentioning, I didn't find anyone else in the house either. I then decided to go outside and look at our bikes, assuming he must have left for some reason. But Brian's bike was still right there next to mine, just off the driveway in the bushes, right where we'd left them. Me and Chase searched the house for 2 hours until 5 a.m. before finally realizing this was serious and calling the police. The whole thing was a mess. Chase's parents were furious and cut all contact between me and Chase, probably figuring I had something to do with it. I hoped Brian would show up in the few days following, but he didn't. Weeks and then months passed. They didn't even find any clues or signs of break-ins the night he went missing, and both me and Chase claimed to be sleeping. But I keep thinking back to hearing Chase talking to someone upstairs, and the thumps I heard, and just feeling like something else was going on in there that was hidden from me. Also, why did Brian go missing and not me or Chase? Or what if I'd woken up sooner? Maybe things would be different. I don't know. I never talked to Chase after that, and I never got any answers. The town I grew up in was pretty small and unremarkable. Just your regular small town, a couple hours out from the major city. Before finally realizing this was serious and calling the police, the whole thing was a mess. Chase's parents were furious and cut all contact between me and Chase, probably figuring I had something to do with it. I hoped Brian would show up in the few days following, but he didn't. Weeks and then months passed. They didn't even find any clues or signs of break-ins the night he went missing. And both me and Chase claimed to be sleeping. But I keep thinking back to hearing Chase talking to someone upstairs and the thumps I heard, and just feeling like something else was going on in there that was hidden from me. Also, why did Brian go missing and not me or Chase? Or what if I'd woken up sooner? Maybe things would be different. I don't know. I never talked to Chase after that, and I never got any answers. The town I grew up in was pretty small and unremarkable. Just your regular small town a couple hours out from the major city. Most of it I would consider kind of trashy, lots of older small houses and just not the best area all around. But at some point well before I was born, I guess some rich families decided to build these large fancy houses on the outskirts of the town, away from all the trashiness. Don't know why they didn't just move away, but whatever. Eventually they figured it out and did move, but nobody here could afford those places, and nobody who didn't already live here wanted to move here. So those big mansion-style houses on the edge of town were left abandoned. That's what I was told happened anyway. When I was in high school, me and my two friends, Josh and Caden, thought of this great idea to explore one of the mansions out there. We had no reason other than just the thrill of going urban exploring, but we were all pretty excited for it. We all met up outside my house at 10 p.m., and none of us having a car or a license. We walked for about an hour all the way out to the woods, where the large houses were built. There was only one road in and one road out, so no way to get lost. The road was well overgrown by then, and even most of the asphalt was degraded or split into chunks with roots and bushes and stuff growing through the cracks. After the long walk, we got up to the mansion. Of the few that were out there, this is the one we chose because it was the farthest and deepest into the woods, which we assumed would make it the least explored. It was very run down and weathered, almost had no color left to the outside, like it was just this dying gray structure. It was very creepy looking, and I know I would definitely not be there if I didn't have two of my buddies with me. We walked up to the doorway. The actual door had been broken off and was laying on the porch, so we basically just walked right in. Josh was the only one with a real flashlight. Me and Caden were using our phones. I think the easiest way to describe this place is probably exactly how you're imagining it. Huge wooden staircase spiraling up the middle of the house right at the entrance, and just old stuff everywhere. There was also a thick layer of dust in the air that made it hard to clearly see anything, even with the flashlights. All of us were tripping over stuff. Most of the downstairs rooms had broken furniture and old decor scattered all over the floors. Because of how hard it was to navigate, we only stayed down there for maybe a minute before heading up the main staircase to the next floor. At the top of the stairs was a long hallway, and it was empty. No broken stuff or anything on the floor, but all three of us immediately were hit by a very strong odor. It was so bad that Josh went right back down to the bottom of the stairs, saying he wasn't going any further. Me and Caden decided to keep walking down the hall, though, to figure out what it was. Splitting up was really stupid, especially since Josh was the only one with a good flashlight. But for whatever reason, I was really intrigued by whatever the hell was down that hallway. All the doors were open except for one at the end. Kind of made it creepier, though, walking past each of the open pitch-black rooms, knowing anything could be hiding in there. We were only 3 or 4 steps away from the last door when suddenly we heard a door slam downstairs. "Josh!" My voice echoed down the hall. "Josh, you good?" "Hello?" Josh wasn't responding. Of course, at that point, we completely forgot about the door and started hurrying back to the top of the stairs. Josh wasn't down there, and even stranger, his light wasn't on either. Even if he had gone deeper into the house, we should have been able to see some sort of light because of how dark it was in here. Then we heard footsteps on the floorboards, walking slowly from the back of the house up to the front until they were right below us. But they stopped before entering the entrance room. I was going to call out Josh again, but in that moment something in me was 100% sure it wasn't Josh. It was someone else. But then where the hell was Josh at? I could tell from the look on Caden's face as well that he didn't believe it was Josh either. The person below us didn't move for a whole minute. Then, instead of continuing to walk into the entrance room, They turned around and started going back. And maybe 20 seconds later, we heard knocking, like light tapping on a wall, as if trying to signal something. And it was definitely on purpose because they kept doing it. Caden asked in a whisper if I thought that was Josh, maybe trying to tell us where he was. He didn't really seem to believe it, but I mean, if someone else was in here, why didn't Josh call out for help or something? Maybe he was just messing with us. We started walking down the steps to the first floor. Even if it wasn't Josh, this person had to know where we were anyway, and I'd rather be by the front door than still upstairs with nowhere to run. The tapping sounds kept going all the way until we were right at the front hallway. It was very dark, and my phone light did nothing at all. All I could see was dust in total blackness. I took a few steps in, and I started to barely be able to see a figure in the dark. And at the very same time, I heard a voice behind me. It was Josh. He was outside the house, whispering for us to get the hell out of there. We started making a dead sprint for the doorway, and I could hear someone move in the hallway behind us. I don't know if they were trying to chase us for a second or what, but we got out of there and ran all the way back. Once we were out of the woods, Josh explained that he was standing down there when he heard someone outside, and before he could tell us, he had to hide and turn off his flashlight because the man was already so close. He basically heard him walking up, then the man walked through the doorway 5 seconds later. Josh watched as the guy stared up the staircase like he knew we were up there. Then he walked down the hall, and that's when Josh moved out the doorway to hopefully not be seen and wait for a chance to help us get out of there. Few seconds later, we heard the door slam and all the tapping. Josh was absolutely sure that from the looks of it, the man was not only following us but also trying to lead us deeper into the house by making noise. It just seemed like it wasn't a random encounter. We don't know what was going on in that house, what was in the room, or what the man wanted with us. Music. Had we followed the sounds any further? He also acknowledged something far darker. If he died before rescue came, he told Margaret that she would not receive a body to bury. The other castaways would need it more than she would. Just 4 days into their ordeal, his words revealed that desperate, starving thoughts were already rattling around the heads of the stranded. On day 6, Felix wrote again. He mentioned that all the castaways were still alive at this point, but his tone had become even more discouraged. In this much shorter entry, he described lying down beneath the sailcloth, too weak to do anything other than wait to pass. Then, on December 24th, Christmas Eve, Felix wrote for the final time. He stated again that they were all still alive, but there was no sign of any relief in sight. By then, if his account was accurate, the group had survived 13 days without food and had only consumed water by eating the dirty snow that had gathered around their feet. His feet were also in constant pain by then, and he was exhausted beyond all comprehension. At some point while writing this letter, he ran out of ink, so he finished it with his own blood. William also left behind accounts of the ordeal on Gull Island, but unfortunately, they were reported lost not long after being recovered. What remains of his account comes from newspaper reports at the time, and according to those reports, the group discussed drawing lots to determine who might be sacrificed so the others could survive. No one volunteered, as you might imagine, so method was chosen and names were drawn. William's sister, Grenelda, was said to have drawn the lot, but William reportedly offered to take her place. Felix's letters make no direct reference to a sacrifice taking place. He also didn't confirm whether William followed through on his offer or whether anyone was killed intentionally. What he does leave behind, though, is a cryptic line suggesting that the full truth of what happened on the island was way worse than what he had written. If anything like a sacrifice did take place, it's possible that Felix omitted that information from his letters to spare his wife any further horror. Newspaper coverage at the time did not hesitate to speculate, though, and rumors follow the story of the Queen of Swansea castaways to this day. What is certain is that by the time rescue came, in the form of Mark's sealing schooner in April of 1868, the 11 stranded shipwreck survivors were already long dead. When Captain Mark returned to Gull Island with the 60 men to retrieve the Queen of Swansea dead, the work was nothing short of grim. The bodies had endured months of winter exposure, and the snow and freezing temperatures had preserved them in place. 9 of the bodies were found beneath the torn sailcloth that had once served as the group's shelter. 2 others were discovered completely skeletonized, separate from the group, and were the first bodies found by Mark's crew when they went searching for the bird they had shot. According to some reports, those bodies showed signs of flesh having been removed, further fueling speculation. Separating the remains afterward from one another actually required crowbars, but the men did what they could to treat them with respect under the difficult circumstances. They were then carried back to Tilt Cove, and all but one were buried quickly. Felix's letter had made his wishes clear, and his remains were transported to St. John's and buried in Belvedere Cemetery as he had asked. The discovery of the bodies brought with it answers to a mystery that had lasted several long months. Shortly after the Queen of Swansea failed to show up at Tilt Cove when expected, rumors began to circulate that the ship was lost in the storm it encountered, and it sank. No one could have imagined that for a precious few weeks, the surviving passengers and crew of the ship were clinging to life just on the other side of the bay. Even with all of this, though, questions still remain. We don't know how long beyond Christmas Eve the last one lived, nor do we know whether a sacrifice was carried out or if it was merely discussed. We also don't know who was the first or last to die. In the end, all that is known is that they passed within sight of salvation. One of the other more persistent questions involved the nearby community of Shoe Cove. Some later accounts claimed that these citizens there had seen lights or flames on the island during the days after the wreck. Those claims led to an unthinkable conclusion. If fires had been seen, why had no one gone to investigate? According to some versions of the story, villagers believed the lights were something known locally as Jack-the-Lantern. In regional folklore, mysterious lights seen in lonely places at night were sometimes viewed as bad omens or wandering spirits. The idea that such lights might signal danger might have kept some people away from determining what they were. Because of that belief, the story supposes the people of Shoe Cove ignored what might have been distress signals. With that said, though, this isn't supported by the writings left behind on the island. Both John and Felix stated plainly that the castaways were unable to maintain a real fire. The island had no wood, and the small tufts of grass they burned early on with their matches would have produced only small, brief flames. There's also another important detail to consider. In those days, fishermen rarely went to sea after November. Winter storms and ice made sea travel dangerous, so small communities tended to stay close to shore during the winter months. There were, of course, exceptions, and some of the writings found on Gull Island indicated that the castaways had spotted passing ships that failed to spot them back. Even if this were the case, though, it's entirely possible that even if someone had seen something unusual on the island, they would not have attempted a trip across winter seas without a clear understanding of what might be happening. Again, the assumption at the time was that the Queen of Swansea was sunk at sea, with all of its passengers and crewmen going down with the ship, so no one was looking for them. Still, though, as you might imagine, the tragedy left people searching for something or someone to blame. When an inquiry was eventually held, it concluded that the wreck itself was an act of God. The storm, poor visibility, and the hidden rocks of Gull Island had combined in a way that doomed the ship. But interestingly, the inquiry did not entirely absolve the nearby communities of some responsibility. The official conclusion suggested that ignorance and superstition may have played a role in preventing the castaways from being discovered while they were still alive. Whether that criticism is fair or not is still debated to this day. In 1884, 17 years after the wreck, a lighthouse was finally constructed there. The island had already claimed 1 ship and 11 lives after the wreck itself, and the lighthouse was meant to ensure that no other vessel would meet the same fate by striking the rocks in the darkness or poor weather. The first man appointed to serve as the lighthouse keeper was none other than Captain Mark. All the castaways, with the exception of Felix, are buried together in Tilt Cove, and a large monument was installed at the gravesite in remembrance of all they endured and how close they came to surviving their terrifying ordeal. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and a special thanks to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon or as a channel member. If you're interested, we offer early access videos that are released roughly week before the regular YouTube uploads. Also, if you have a story suggestion, feel free to submit it using the form found in the description. Anyways, thanks again, and hopefully, I will see you in the next one. One of the charges against him was first-degree assault, but as bad as that was, they also charged him with performing illegal surgeries in which he allegedly removed men's genitals in makeshift operating rooms without their consent. Investigators also found CP while searching his home, and later they discovered shocking posts he made on online message boards. In one of these posts, he claimed to have eaten the parts he removed from the men. In another, he described assaulting, torturing, murdering, and mutilating a young blonde male hitchhiker somewhere in Missouri and burying the body in a remote part of the Ozark Mountains. Since the description matched Branson, the investigators working the case decided to confront Jack and ask if it was him. As you might have guessed, though, he claimed he never met Branson and that his posts were all entirely made up. Investigators have mentioned that they don't know if he was being truthful or not, but lean toward him likely being deceitful. What makes this more disturbing is that during a subsequent search of his home, they found a turtle claw necklace that looked almost exactly like one Branson was known to have worn. Now, obviously, it could have been a coincidence that Jack had a necklace like Branson's, and that he just so happened to make up a horrific story about a young man who looked a lot like him, but it's certainly strange to say the least. Confusing things further is that the dead theory is often seen as equally likely. A well-known den in Skidmore burned down shortly after the disappearance, and investigators explored the theory that Branson may have been murdered there and the place was burned down to destroy the evidence. Another possibility explored was that he overdosed at the house while partying with friends. Branson had a potentially fatal heart condition known as tachycardia that can be exacerbated by using stimulants. If that's what happened, the people he was with might have panicked and disposed of the body to prevent themselves from getting wrapped up in investigation. Unfortunately, as of today, none of these theories have ever been substantiated. Bob Perry passed away in March of 2004, never knowing what happened to his son. The following month, Jack Wayne Rogers was convicted and sentenced to more than 3 decades in prison for several different charges. Branson's mother attended a sentencing and begged him to confess and to reveal where her son was buried. But Jack maintained that he had nothing to do with Branson's disappearance. And interestingly, in a statement after the sentencing, Rebecca said she believed him. Music. After that, the case went cold for a number of years. In 2007 and 2009, the police got a number of tips about potential burial sites in Skidmore. The tipsters apparently never told the authorities how Branson died, but they did say that his body was dug up, moved, and reburied a number of times to throw police off the trail. Neither of these searches yielded any results, however. Branson's mother offered a $20,000 reward for information leading to his body in 2010, but tragically, she died the following year. A decade later, in the summer of 2022, the county sheriff announced that a new suspect had been identified. After nearly 2 decades, this was huge news, but as far as we know, the suspect was never identified or arrested. Most recently, in 2024, another anonymous tip led to a burial site excavation on a property about 6 miles north of Branson's home in Skidmore. That operation included officers and agents from local law enforcement, the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and the FBI. They spent several days excavating the site and determined the earth had been recently disturbed. This suggested that something may have been buried there and moved, but like in 2007 and 2009, nothing was found. With so many dead-end tips, some law enforcement officials began to suspect that they were intentionally being led on to frustrate them and throw them off the real trail. As of 2026, the investigation is still active and ongoing, and the county sheriff's office still follows up on all new tips and leads. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and a special thanks to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon or as a channel member. If you're interested, we offer early access videos that are released roughly a week before the regular YouTube uploads. Also, if you have a story suggestion, feel free to submit it using the form found in the description. Anyways, thanks again, and hopefully, I will see you in the next one.